The glass door of the Haven House shelter opened with a soft sound, and Marina Caldwell entered with firm, determined steps. Her heels echoed on the white ceramic floor as she adjusted her designer bag on her shoulder. The expensive perfume she wore seemed out of place with the smell of disinfectant and home-cooked food that permeated the hallway. She had come to find the perfect child, the one who would fill the void in her impeccable life. But when the social worker opened the door to the common room, and she saw the scar that cut across the face of the 7-year-old girl, her expectations shattered like broken glass. Marina didn't know that in less than an hour, a 30-second video would destroy all her certainties and force her to face truths she had spent her entire life avoiding. What she was about to discover would change not only that day, but the entire trajectory of her existence. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel to always receive exciting and special stories like this one. Now let's get to know the full story of Marina and little Sophia. Marina Caldwell was 36 years old and had a life that seemed lifted from a luxury decor magazine. Perfectly brushed blonde hair fell in soft waves to her shoulders. Her green eyes were accentuated by professional makeup applied every morning. Her artificially tanned skin didn't have a single imperfection, maintained by expensive treatments at aesthetic clinics. She always dressed in brand-name clothes, neutral and elegant colors that screamed good taste and money. She lived in a duplex apartment in the city's most upscale neighborhood, with a view of the artificial lake and minimalist decor signed by an award-winning architect. Everything in shades of white, gray, and beige. Everything perfectly organized, not a cushion out of place. The house looked more like a showroom than a home. She was a partner in a human resources consulting firm. She had founded herself 8 years ago. She worked with executive recruitment, connecting companies with qualified professionals. Her schedule was meticulously organized. Every minute of the day had a purpose. She woke up at 5 in the morning to work out with a personal trainer, ate a breakfast calculated by a nutritionist, and was in the office before 8. Her marriage to Edward Caldwell lasted 7 years. He was a plastic surgeon, handsome, successful, the perfect combination on paper. They were the couple everyone envied on social media. Trips to the Caribbean, dinners at starred restaurants, impeccable photos at charity events. But behind the curtains, the marriage was cold as ice. Edward wanted children. Marina always found excuses to postpone. First, it was her career taking off. Then it was the company needing attention. Then it was the wrong time, the unstable economy, 1,000 reasons that hid the real truth. Marina was terrified of pregnancy. The idea of her body deforming, stretching, getting stretch marks and sagging skin horrified her. She had built an image of perfection and couldn't imagine destroying it for 9 months of gestation. But it wasn't just vanity. It was something deeper, darker, that she didn't want to examine. They tried in vitro fertilization twice, with Marina always inventing last-minute problems that made the cycles fail. Edward began to suspect she was sabotaging the process. The fights became more frequent, more bitter. He accused her of being selfish. She retorted by calling him old-fashioned. The divorce was finalized 8 months ago. Edward was already with another woman, a 30-year-old dermatologist who, Marina heard through gossip, was 3 months pregnant. The news hit her like a punch in the stomach, not because she still loved Edward, but because it proved a point. She was the problem. It was then that her psychologist, Dr. Beatrice, suggested adoption during a particularly tense session. "Marina, you say you want a family but are afraid of pregnancy. Have you ever considered adoption?" Dr. Beatrice adjusted her glasses, watching her patient's reaction. "Adopt?" Marina repeated the word as if it were an alien concept. I don't know. I never thought about it. Why not? There are hundreds of children needing a home, and you would have motherhood without going through the gestation that scares you so much. The seed was planted. Marina started researching, first reluctantly, then with growing interest. She read about the adoption process, saw photos of available children, imagined what it would be like to have someone small occupying one of the empty rooms in the huge apartment. But Marina being Marina, she had very clear specifications. She wanted a girl between 4 and 6 years old, white, preferably with light hair, healthy, without behavioral or health problems, a child who would fit perfectly into the image she had in mind, a child who looked like she could be biologically hers. She registered with the National Adoption System and began attending the mandatory course for prospective parents. She attended lectures on emotional bonds, childhood trauma and adaptation, but deep down Marina listened to all that as distant theory. She was prepared, she had resources, she had time, she had space. What could go wrong? It was 3 months of waiting until she received the call from Cameron Ross, a social worker at the Haven House shelter. There was a girl who matched the profile. 7 years old, a bit above the preferred age range, but within the acceptable limit. The assistant was careful on the phone, mentioning that the girl had some particularities that would be better discussed in person. Marina scheduled the visit for a Saturday morning. She spent the week imagining the encounter, mentally decorating the child's room. She bought expensive brand-name children's clothes, illustrated books, educational toys, everything ready to receive the daughter who would fill the void. The Haven House shelter was in a middle-class neighborhood, in a large old house that had been adapted to receive up to 20 children. The walls were painted light yellow, with colorful drawings made by the children themselves. The front garden had swings and a red slide. Everything was clean but visibly worn from use and lack of resources. Cameron Ross greeted her at the entrance. She was a woman in her 40s. Curly hair pulled into a ponytail, deep dark circles that told stories of sleepless nights and constant worries. She wore jeans and a simple t-shirt from the shelter itself. Her handshake was firm, but there was caution in her eyes as she evaluated Marina. "Thank you for coming, Marina." Cameron led her down a narrow hallway. "Before you meet Sophia, I need to tell you a bit about her." They sat in a cramped little room that served as an office. There, a scratched wooden desk, stacked files, a ceiling fan that spun noisily. Cameron opened a folder with the name Sophia Mendez, handwritten on the cover. Sophia is 7 years old. She's been with us since she was 3. Her mother was a drug user, father unknown. She was found alone in the apartment where they lived with her mother unconscious from an overdose. The mother passed away in the hospital 2 days later. Marina felt a tightening in her chest, but kept her expression neutral. "Go on." "Sophia was in a foster home for a few months, but it didn't work out. The family had other children and there was a lot of conflict. Since then, she's been here at the shelter." Cameron made a significant pause. "She is a sweet, intelligent, creative girl, loves to draw, but she has—" She hesitated, searching for the right words. "Some emotional difficulties, frequent nightmares, difficulty trusting adults, and there's also the physical issue." "Physical issue?" Marina frowned. "Sophia has a large facial scar, from her left eye down to her chin. It was caused by an accident when she was 4 years old." Cameron watched Marina's reaction closely. "She tripped and fell on broken glass here at the shelter, needed many stitches. The scar is permanent, though it could be minimized with future surgeries." Marina felt something uncomfortable stir in her stomach. A facial scar, large, permanent. It wasn't what she had imagined. It didn't fit the perfect image she had built in her mind. "I see." Marina kept her tone professional. "May I meet her?" "Of course. But Marina, I need you to understand something important." Cameron leaned forward, her voice becoming more serious. "Sophia has been rejected 3 times. 3 different families came, spent time with her, and then gave up. Always for the same reason. Please, if you're not sure, it's better not to proceed. Each rejection destroys a piece of this child." "I understand." Marina nodded, but internally she already felt the decision forming. Cameron led her to the common room, a large space with old sofas, an ancient TV, toy boxes, and a shelf with children's books. There were about 10 children there of various ages, some watching cartoons, others playing, and in the corner, alone at a small table, a girl was drawing intently. "Sophia," Cameron called softly. The girl looked up, and Marina saw the scar. It was impossible not to see. It started just below the left eye, a thick, pinkish cut that ran diagonally across her face, cutting across her cheek and ending at her chin. The surrounding skin was slightly uneven, with marks where the stitches had been. On a face that would have been angelic, with huge brown eyes and wavy dark hair, the scar was like a tear in a valuable painting. Marina felt her stomach churn, not from compassion or empathy, but from something she was ashamed to admit: aesthetic revulsion. How could she take this child into her perfect world? What would people say? How would she appear in family photos? Everyone would ask about the scar, everyone would stare, everyone would make that pitying expression. "Hi, Mom." Sophia spoke quietly, her large eyes studying Marina, with a mixture of hope and fear of yet another disappointment. "Hi, Sophia." Marina forced a smile. What are you drawing? The girl showed the paper. It was a drawing of a house with a garden, colorful flowers, a yellow sun in the sky, and 3 figures, a tall woman, a small girl, and a dog. It's beautiful, Marina commented, but her voice sounded mechanical even to her own ears. It's where I want to live one day, Sophia explained, her tiny finger pointing to each element. With a real mom and a dog. Do you have a dog, Mum? No, Marina began, but was interrupted by Cameron. Sophia, how about showing Marina your other drawings? Cameron tried to facilitate the interaction. The girl picked up a folder where she kept her work. Each drawing was more elaborate than the last. Houses, families, animals, flowers, always the same theme: a home, a family, belonging. Marina spent 40 minutes with Sophia, asking mechanical questions, watching the girl play, trying to feel some connection, but the only thing she could see was that scar. Every time Sophia turned her face, there it was. Impossible to ignore, impossible not to see. When Cameron finally took Marina back to the office, the relief was immense. And then? What did you think? Cameron asked, but by her tone she already knew the answer. Marina took a deep breath. She seems like a sweet girl, really, but I need to be honest. I don't think it's the right fit. Because of the scar. It wasn't a question. It's not just that, Marina lied, trying to soften it. It's the age too, and the emotional issues you mentioned. I don't know if I'm prepared for... Marina, Cameron interrupted her, her voice tired but firm. Be honest. At least with me. It's because of her appearance, isn't it? The silence confirmed everything. Cameron sighed deeply, running her hands over her face. You know, I've worked here for 16 years. I've seen many children get adopted, many find families. But there are those nobody wants. The older ones, those with health problems, those considered imperfect. Sophia is one of the most intelligent and affectionate who has ever come through here. But that scar... She shook her head. It's as if it cancels out everything else in people's eyes. I'm sorry. Marina began to stand up, wanting to escape the discomfort. Wait. Cameron raised her hand. Before you leave, there's something I want to show you. You owe me at least that. Marina hesitated but sat back down. Cameron took her phone, fiddled with it for a few moments, then turned the screen to Marina. Watch. It was a video recorded by the shelter's security camera. The black and white image showed a hallway. The date in the corner indicated 6 months ago. A woman entered the frame, clearly drunk, staggering. She was leaving after another visit that hadn't worked out. Then something happened. The woman tripped, fell awkwardly, and her bag opened, spilling its contents on the floor. She tried to get up but couldn't. And then Sophia appeared. The 7-year-old girl saw the fallen woman and, instead of walking past, stopped, knelt down, began gathering the objects that had fallen. Wallet, keys, lipstick, papers. Put everything back in the bag carefully. Then, with visible effort, tried to help the woman up. The woman pushed her away forcefully, and Sophia fell on her back on the floor. But the girl didn't give up. Got up, tried again. This time she managed to help the woman to her feet, handed her the bag. The woman didn't even look at her, just staggered down the stairs. Sophia stood there, alone in the empty hallway, and then she lowered her head and began to cry silently, her small shoulders shaking. The video ended. Marina realized tears were streaming down her own face without her having noticed when they started. Do you know who that woman was? Cameron asked softly. She was the last prospective parent before you. Came to meet Sophia, spent the afternoon with her, made the girl believe she would finally have a family. Then she mustered the courage to ask if the scar could be removed surgically. When I explained it would be difficult and expensive, she made up an excuse and left. Marina couldn't stop crying. Sophia saw the woman falling, drunk with disappointment because she didn't want to stay with her, and still she helped. Because that's who she is. Cameron wiped her own tears that were beginning to fall. This child has a heart bigger than most adults I know, but all people see is a scar, a physical flaw that can be corrected with time and money. They don't see this girl's soul. I didn't know. Marina sobbed. Now you do. Cameron put away her phone. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to be very honest with yourself before answering. What kind of person do you want to be, Marina? Marina was silent, processing everything. The video played on a loop in her mind. That small girl helping the one who had rejected her, crying alone in an empty hallway, waiting for a family that might never come. And then something broke inside Marina. It wasn't instantaneous. It wasn't magical. It was painful. It was as if a giant mirror had been placed in front of her, reflecting not only her perfectly made-up face, but her ugly, superficial soul. She had spent her entire life obsessed with appearances, built a whole existence based on images, surfaces, artificial perfections, refused to get pregnant because she was afraid of stretch marks, divorced because she couldn't give her husband the child he wanted, lived in an apartment that looked like a museum because God forbid something was out of place. And now she was about to reject a child who desperately needed love because of a scar. "What kind of monster have I become?" Marina whispered. "You're not a monster," Cameron replied gently. "You're a product of a society that values appearance over substance. But you can choose to be different. It's not too late. What if I'm not good enough for her?" Marina's voice trembled. "What if I ruin everything? What if she needs something I can't give? All mothers have these fears." Cameron smiled for the first time. "The difference is you're willing to admit them. That's already a start." Marina wiped her face, the smeared makeup staining her perfectly manicured hands. Can I see her again? Talk to her more." "Of course." This time, when Marina entered the common room, it was with different eyes. She didn't see the scar first. She saw a girl drawing with intense concentration, her tongue out in mental effort. She saw hair that needed to be combed with care. She saw small hands stained with crayon. She saw a complete child, not a walking defect. "Sophia?" Marina knelt beside the small table. "Can I sit with you?" The girl nodded, surprised. "You came back?" "I came back, and Marina swallowed dryly, choosing her words carefully. "I wanted to apologize. I left earlier because I was afraid." "Afraid of me?" Sophia asked quietly, her hand rising unconsciously to cover the scar. "No." Marina held that tiny hand, preventing the gesture. "Afraid of myself. Afraid of not being good enough. Because, Sophia, do you know what I just saw?" "What?" "Cameron showed me a video of you helping a woman who had rejected you. Even after she hurt you, you helped her." Marina felt the tears return. "That is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen anyone do." Sophia was silent, processing. "You know why I did it?" the girl finally asked. "Because Miss Cameron always says that we have to be the person we would like to have when we need someone. And I thought if I were fallen, I'd want someone to help me." Marina couldn't hold back the crying. She grabbed that child in her arms and cried, as she hadn't cried since she was little. She cried for all the times she had been cruel unnecessarily, for all the moments she valued surface over essence, for almost losing that extraordinary girl out of pure vanity. Sophia, initially stiff with surprise, gradually relaxed in the hug. Her own tears began to fall, wetting the expensive shoulder of Marina's blazer. "Don't cry, Mom," Sophia whispered. "Miss Cameron says crying is good sometimes. It means we're feeling for real. You are very wise, you know." Marina pulled back a little, holding the girl's face in her hands. "And your scar, it's not ugly. It's proof that you survived. It's part of you, and every part of you is beautiful." "Really?" Sophia's eyes filled with fragile hope. "Really? So are you going to adopt me?" The question came loaded with so many previous disappointments that it broke the heart. "If you'll have me," Marina smiled through the tears. "But I need to warn you, I'm not perfect. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. My apartment is very tidy and boring. I can't cook well. I don't have a dog, but we can get one. And I'm going to need you to teach me many things." "Like what?" "How to be a real person, because I think I forgot at some point, and you seem to know much better than I do." Sophia threw herself into Marina's arms again, this time with full force. "I'll teach you, Mom. I'll teach you everything." That word, Mom, struck Marina like lightning. She realized that was what was missing. Not a perfect child to complete a perfect image, but a real, imperfect, authentic human connection. But before we continue and discover the outcome of this emotional story, leave your like here in the video, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and activate the bell so you don't miss any new stories. Have you ever judged someone by their appearance and later discovered you were completely wrong? How was it? Also tell me which city you are watching this video from. I'll mark your comment with a special heart. Now, let's get back to our story. The adoption process took 4 months. They were months of regular visits to the shelter, dinners at McDonald's that Sophia loved, walks in the park, where the girl ran after pigeons with contagious joy. They were months of Marina learning to slow down, to undo the perfect bun and do crazy hairstyles, to sit on the floor to draw even if her expensive pants wrinkled. The apartment began to change too. The white, empty guest room was transformed into a children's paradise with Sophia's help. Blue and purple walls full of hand-painted stars, a canopy bed with fairy lights, shelves with books and toys, a small desk where Sophia could draw, and in the corner, at the girl's special request, a fluffy, dog-shaped ottoman until they could get a real one. Marina had to face many internal demons. The first time she took Sophia to the mall, she felt all the eyes on the girl's scar. Her first instinct was to want to hide, cover, divert attention. But then Sophia squeezed her hand and smiled, completely oblivious or already accustomed to the stares, and Marina realized the problem wasn't people looking. It was her caring what they thought. She started therapy 3 times a week, unpacking her obsession with perfection. She discovered it came from childhood, from an extremely critical mother who never found anything good enough. Marina had spent her entire life trying to reach an impossible standard of perfection to finally feel loved. And now she was learning that true love had nothing to do with perfection. Marina's friends had mixed reactions when she announced the adoption. Some genuinely happy, others clearly concerned. One of them, Felicity, had the audacity to ask at a dinner, "But Marina, have you thought this through? A child with special needs?" "She doesn't have special needs," Marina replied firmly. "She has a scar, and she's the most amazing girl I've ever met." "But people will judge, honey. You know how society is." "Then let them judge." Marina looked Felicity in the eye. "I've spent too much time worrying about what others think. Sophia taught me there are much more important things." Felicity didn't know what to say. The subject changed quickly. Marina realized later that some friendships were as superficial as her previous life had been, and that was okay. She was making space for real things. Finally, the day of permanent custody arrived. Marina went to pick up Sophia from the shelter for the last time. The girl had a small suitcase with her clothes and belongings. She said goodbye to every child, every staff member, the walls where she had grown up. Cameron cried openly, hugging Sophia tightly. "You're going to be very happy, my little one. Take care of your mom for me." "I will, Miss Cameron. I promise." On the way home, Sophia was quiet, processing the enormity of the moment. Marina decided to stop somewhere special first. "Where are we?" Sophia asked when they got out of the car. "It's a surprise." They entered an animal shelter. The sound of barking filled the air, and Sophia's eyes widened like saucers. "Are we going to adopt a dog?" Sophia could barely contain her emotion. "If you want. Every home needs love, right?" Marina smiled. "And I thought we could start our new life by adopting together." They spent 2 hours at the animal shelter. Sophia was enchanted by all of them, but there was one in particular that caught her attention. A medium-sized caramel-colored mutt, with one ear slightly bent and a paw slightly crooked from a previous accident. The staff explained he was one of the least sought after, precisely because of the paw. "It's this one," Sophia announced with conviction. "He's perfect." Marina looked at the imperfect dog and the girl with the scar and smiled through tears. Yes, he is perfect. They named the dog Courage, because that's what they were all learning to have. The first months were challenging in ways Marina never anticipated. Sophia had terrible nightmares, waking up screaming in the middle of the night. Marina would run to the room, hug the trembling girl, hum out-of-tune lullabies until she fell back asleep. Some nights, Sophia slept in Marina's bed, clinging to her for fear that it was all just a dream. There were also unexpected anger outbursts, tantrums seemingly without reason that left Marina completely lost. It was Cameron who explained they were tests. Sophia was testing the limits, checking if Marina would really stay when things got difficult, like everyone else in her life had left. Marina learned patience she never knew she possessed. She learned that love wasn't just the warm, fuzzy feeling from margarine commercials. It was also staying up all night, cleaning up vomit, when Sophia was sick. It was having infinite patience to hear the same story for the 100th time. It was going to school meetings, where teachers looked at Sophia with pity and fighting for them to see the brilliant girl behind the scar. The first time Sophia called Marina Mom for real, without hesitation, was 3 months after the adoption. They were making pancakes together in the kitchen, making a mess, flour everywhere, when Sophia said naturally, "Mom, can I put chocolate in the pancakes?" Marina froze, the spatula in the air, instant tears in her eyes. "You can, my love. You can put chocolate in everything." Sophia noticed the tears. "Why are you crying?" "Because I'm very, very happy." The girl hugged Marina's waist, leaving flour marks on the expensive dress. "I'm happy too, Mom." School was another battlefield. Children could be cruelly honest, and there were incidents. One boy called Sophia monster at recess. Another made jokes about Halloween. Sophia came home crying, saying she wanted to skip school. Marina sat with her, holding her small hands. "My love, some people are going to be mean. But you know what you do? You hold your head high and show them you are so much more than they can see." "But it hurts, Mom, when they laugh at me." "I know it hurts." Marina wiped her daughter's tears. "But your scar doesn't define you, it's just a part of you. Like your beautiful eyes, your smile, your huge heart. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve a second of your time." The next day, Marina marched to the school and had a serious talk with the principal about bullying. She also asked to do a presentation on differences and empathy for Sophia's class. The principal reluctantly agreed. Marina prepared a beautiful presentation with photos of famous people who had physical differences and were still amazing. Models with vitiligo, actors with disabilities, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. She ended by showing photos of Sophia helping at the animal shelter, smiling, drawing. "Some people will only see a scar," Marina told the second-grade class. "But smart and kind people will see a courageous, creative and kind girl. What kind of person do you want to be?" The children were quiet, thoughtful. After that, there was a noticeable change. It didn't completely end the bullying, but it opened important conversations. And Sophia made two true friends, Beatrice and Luna, who defended her fiercely whenever someone tried to be mean. Meanwhile, Marina was changing in ways she never imagined. Her company continued to do well, but she reorganized her priorities. She no longer worked until 9 at night. She left at 5 to have dinner with Sophia. For some important meetings, she took Sophia along, and the girl would sit in the corner drawing. Her corporate clients initially found it strange, but soon got used to it. Some even commented that Marina seemed more human, more accessible, and that ironically brought more business, because people wanted to work with someone real, not a corporate robot. The apartment was no longer impeccable. There were Sophia's drawings on the walls that Marina had framed with pride. Courage's toys scattered around the living room, children's books piled on the sofa, flour permanently installed in some crevice of the kitchen because they cooked together every weekend. It was messy, it was imperfect, it was a real home. Marina also started dressing differently. Less robotic executive, more accessible mom. Jeans and t-shirts on the weekend, simple ponytail, less makeup. Sometimes she went out with Sophia in pajamas to get ice cream at night, something the old Marina would have considered unthinkable. 6 months after the adoption, Marina organized a birthday party for Sophia, who was turning 8. She invited all the children from the class, the shelter staff, Cameron, Dr. Beatrice, even some of Marina's friends who had remained close. The party theme was art, Sophia's passion. There were easels for painting, tables for drawing, a hired artist doing caricatures. The cake had 3 tiers decorated with paint palettes and paintbrushes in fondant. When it was time to sing Happy Birthday, Sophia was radiant in the spotlight, surrounded by real friends. Her smile was so wide that the scar disappeared in the pure joy plastered on her face. Marina looked around, seeing the life they had built together in such a short time. Cameron approached, putting a hand on her shoulder. "I've done an incredible job with her." Marina shook her head. "She's the one who did an incredible job with me, taught me what really matters." "You saved each other," Cameron smiled. "That's how family works." That night, after everyone had left and Sophia finally slept, exhausted from so much joy, Marina sat in her daughter's room watching her sleep. Courage was curled up at the foot of the bed. Drawings covered the walls. Birthday presents were piled in the corner. She thought of the woman she was less than a year ago, obsessed with appearances, living in a museum apartment, alone in her sterile perfection. She thought of how she had almost rejected Sophia because of a scar, and now she looked at that scar and saw beauty, saw survival, saw strength, saw her perfect daughter in all her glorious imperfection. "I'm the one who should thank you," Marina whispered to the sleeping girl. "You saved me from a meaningless life, showed me that love has nothing to do with perfection." In the following months, Marina started a special project. Inspired by her and Sophia's story, she created a program in her company dedicated to helping children's shelters. She connected professionals willing to give mentorships, offered scholarships, organized donation campaigns, but more importantly, she started campaigns to change the perception about adoption. She gave lectures at companies and schools about late adoption and children considered hard to adopt. She always took Sophia along, who shared her story with an eloquence that left adults in tears. "The scar?" Sophia would say to attentive audiences. "It's just different skin. It doesn't change who I am inside, and my mum saw that when no one else could." One day, they received a letter from a family that had attended one of their lectures. It said they had adopted a 9-year-old boy with cerebral palsy, something they had considered impossible before. Now they couldn't imagine life without him. The letter ended, "You changed our family forever. Thank you for showing us that love has no physical requirements." Marina read the letter aloud to Sophia while they had dinner. "See? You're changing the world, my love." "We are changing, Mom," Sophia corrected. Together, a year and a half after the adoption, Edward, Marina's ex-husband, asked to see her. They met at a neutral cafe. He was different, lighter, happier. He talked about his baby daughter, about how fatherhood had transformed him. "I heard about your adoption." Edward stirred his coffee. "And about the work you're doing with shelters. I wanted to say I'm proud of you, Marina. You became the person I always knew you could be." Marina thanked him, genuinely touched. "You were right, you know, about me being afraid of having children, but it wasn't really about pregnancy. It was about not thinking I was good enough, about being afraid of ruining an innocent life with my neuroses. And now I know all mothers are afraid of ruining everything." Marina smiled. "The difference is doing it anyway, and letting your child transform you as much as you transform them." Before they left, Edward asked to meet Sophia. Marina hesitated but agreed. They arranged a casual meeting at the park. Sophia was initially shy, but Edward's skill with children soon won her over. He didn't ask any questions about the scar, didn't look at her with pity, treated her like any child, asking about school, friends, drawings. "Your mum told me you're an incredible artist," Edward commented while they pushed Sophia on the swing. "I like to draw families," Sophia replied. "Because everyone deserves one. You're very wise for your age, you know. My mom taught me. She said families aren't about blood, they're about love." Edward looked at Marina with something resembling admiration. She was right. She always is. When they said goodbye, Edward hugged Marina. "Thank you for letting me meet her. Your daughter is extraordinary." "I know," Marina replied with a maternal pride she never knew she could feel. On the second adoption anniversary, Marina organized something special. They returned to the Haven House shelter, but this time bringing huge donations, new computers, books, toys, complete room renovations, all funded by Marina and her network of corporate contacts. But the best part was when Sophia gave an art workshop for the shelter children. She taught drawing techniques, shared expensive materials Marina had bought, but mainly she shared hope. "I was sitting here drawing the day I found my mom," Sophia told the children. "And you know what I was drawing? A house with a family. And now I have that. Each of you will have it too, I promise. You just need to believe." Cameron pulled Marina aside, tears streaming freely. "You have no idea what it means for these children to see that one of them made it. That Sophia, who was rejected so many times, now has a beautiful family. It's concrete hope. It's the least I can do." Marina hugged the social worker who had changed her life. "You gave me the greatest gift possible. You gave me a daughter. You gave me purpose. You gave me my humanity back." That night, back at the apartment, Sophia was quiet, thoughtful. Marina noticed. "What are you thinking about, my love?" "About the children at the shelter." Sophia hugged Courage. "They must feel so alone sometimes." "I know they must." Marina sat next to her. "Do you remember what it was like?" "Every day," Sophia nodded. "But you know what was worse? It wasn't not having a family. It was thinking I never would, that nobody would want me." "Oh, my love." Marina hugged her daughter tightly. "I'm so sorry you went through that." "You don't need to be sorry." Sophia nestled into the hug. "Because you came, and now I'll never be alone again." "Never," Marina promised. "You're stuck with me forever." "Good," Sophia laughed. "Because I wasn't going anywhere anyway." Years passed. Sophia grew up and became an articulate teenager, passionate about social causes. Her art evolved from children's drawings to sophisticated paintings that often addressed themes of abandonment, belonging, and family. Several of her works were exhibited in local galleries, with all proceeds going to children's shelters. The scar was still there, of course, but Sophia never wanted the plastic surgeries Marina offered to pay for. She said it was part of her story of who she was, and Marina understood. That scar had led her daughter to her. It was, in a strange way, a blessing. Marina had also completely changed. Her company now had an entire department dedicated to social responsibility. Half of its profits went to adoption programs and shelter support. She had become one of the biggest advocates for late adoption in the country, giving lectures, writing articles, appearing on TV shows. But her greatest pride wasn't the public recognition. It was coming home every day and finding Sophia doing homework in the living room, courage at her feet, music playing, the house full of life and mess and love. When Sophia turned 15, Marina took her back to the hallway where the video had been recorded. The shelter had changed a lot with all the renovations, but that hallway was the same. It was here, Marina pointed. Here that you helped that woman who rejected you. And here that Cameron showed me who you really were. Sophia looked around, memories returning. I remember. I was so sad that day. I thought no one would ever want me. And then you came back. Sophia held Marina's hand. And changed everything. You changed me, my love, more than you imagine. They stood there for a moment, mother and daughter, united by a journey that had begun with rejection and transformed into unconditional love. Mom, Sophia broke the silence. Thank you for not giving up on me, for coming back, for seeing beyond the scar. Thank you for giving me the chance to be your mom, Marina replied, for teaching me what really matters in life, for showing me that perfection is overrated and that true love is messy and difficult and absolutely beautiful. As they drove home, Sophia looked out the window, thoughtful. You know what I want to do when I grow up. What? I want to work with adoption, help other children like me find families, and help adults like you understand that imperfect children are the best. Marina smiled, her heart overflowing. You're going to be amazing at that. And Sophia was. Years later, she graduated in psychology with a specialization in adoption and family bonds. She worked alongside Cameron, who was still at Haven House now as director. Together, they changed policies, trained social workers, and significantly increased the number of successful late adoptions. Marina continued her work, now with her daughter as a partner. They traveled the country giving lectures together, sharing their story, inspiring other people to open their hearts and homes. At one of these lectures, a woman approached during the break. She had tears in her eyes. I am that woman, she said quietly. The one in the video. The one Sophia helped even after I rejected her. Marina and Sophia were silent, shocked. I was in a very dark place back then, the woman continued, her voice breaking. Drinking to forget that I had wasted the chance to have a wonderful daughter because I was afraid of what people would think. That video of Sophia helping me anyway. It saved me. I went into rehab the next day. I've been sober for 5 years now. That's wonderful. Sophia held the woman's hand. I'm so happy for you. I don't deserve your forgiveness. The woman sobbed. I hurt you so much. Everyone deserves forgiveness if they've genuinely changed, Sophia replied with the wisdom she had developed over the years. And you're here, sober, trying to be better. That's all that matters. The woman hugged Sophia with gratitude, murmuring apologies and thanks. When she walked away, Marina saw on her daughter's face the same extraordinary compassion that had made her come back on that decisive day. How can you be so generous? Marina asked later when they were alone. I learned from you, Mom. Sophia smiled. You taught me that holding grudges only hurts us, that forgiving is freeing ourselves, not the person who wronged us. When did you get so wise? The day you decided a scar didn't define who I was. Sophia rested her head on Marina's shoulder. That's when I learned that true love sees beyond imperfections, and that sometimes our scars, the visible and the invisible ones, are what make us special. Marina thought of her own journey, of the invisible scars she carried, the fear of inadequacy, the obsession with perfection, the existential void, and how Sophia, with her visible scar and immense heart, had helped heal them. You know I love you infinitely, right? Marina whispered. I know, Mom. Sophia squeezed her hand. And you know that you saved me in every way a person can save another? We saved each other, and they continued saving. Every child they helped place in a home, every adult they convinced to give adoption a chance, every lecture that changed perspectives. It was endless work, but filled with purpose. Marina sometimes thought of that version of herself who had entered the shelter so many years ago, so polished, so cold, so obsessed with superficialities. And she silently thanked Cameron for not giving up on her, for showing that video, for giving a second chance, because sometimes all we need is someone who believes we can be better, someone who shows us our own ugliness so we can choose to change it, someone who gives us the opportunity to do differently. And sometimes the person we most need to save is ourselves. But we can only do that when we stop chasing impossible perfection and embrace the imperfect beauty of real humanity. Sophia's scar never disappeared. It remained there, a pink line cutting across her face. But when people looked at her now, it wasn't the first thing they saw. They saw her bright, intelligent eyes, her warm smile, her confident posture, her radiant kindness. The scar was there, but Sophia was so much bigger than it. She always had been. Marina just needed to learn to see. And that was the greatest lesson of all, that our imperfections don't define us unless we allow them to. That real love doesn't demand perfection. It demands presence. That family isn't about genetics or appearances. It's about choosing someone every day and saying, "You are enough exactly as you are." Marina had learned it in the most unlikely way. From a 7-year-old girl with a scar and a heart the size of the world, a girl who had been rejected so many times but never lost the capacity to love and forgive, a girl who became her daughter and saved her from an empty life disguised as success. Comment below "Love Transforms" to let me know you made it to the end of this video, and I'll mark your comment with a special heart. And if Marina and Sophia's story moved you, I have another even more surprising one to share with you. Just click on the video that's appearing on your screen now and I'll tell you all about it. A big hug and see you next time for another emotional story. Bye-bye.